The Adewale mansion on Banana Island had always been a place of laughter. Chief Tunde Adewale, billionaire shipping magnate, was happiest at home with his beloved wife, Funmi, and their 3 children, Kemi, 13, Tola, 10, and little Dora, 6. But 2 years ago, tragedy struck. Funmi's sudden illness took her life in less than a week. One day she was dancing in the kitchen with her children, the next, she was gone. The children were devastated. Kemi locked herself in her room for days, Tola began having nightmares, and Dora clung to her father, asking when mommy would come back from the hospital. Chief Tunde tried to be strong, but grief weighed heavily on him. He threw himself into work to avoid breaking down in front of the children. This absence left a gap, and the children began to fill it with mischief and defiance. 6 months after Funmi's death, Chief Tunde decided to hire a live-in maid to help with the children. He thought it would bring stability. The first maid, Madam Sod, was a veteran housekeeper from a senator's household. She lasted 3 days. On her first day, Kemi tied a thread across the hallway so she tripped and spilled a tray of tea. On the second day, Tola locked the pantry door and hid the key. On the third day, Dora poured powder into her hair cream. Madam Sod stormed out, swearing never to return. The second maid didn't even last a night. She woke up to find a live lizard in her slippers. "These children are demons," she screamed, throwing her bag over her shoulder as she fled. By the 8th maid, the staff had learned to avoid the children at all costs. The mansion was still beautiful, but cold, no music, no warmth, just the sound of doors slamming and whispered complaints. Chief Tunde sat in his private study one rainy afternoon, staring at a resignation letter from yet another maid. He rubbed his temples. "What am I doing wrong? Funmi, how did you make this look so easy?" he whispered to the empty room. His personal assistant, Connor, stepped in. "Sir, the agency says they have no more candidates willing to work here." Chief Tunde sighed. "No one. Not even for double pay. They said, sir, that money can't buy peace of mind." That same afternoon, the security guard called from the gate. "Oga, there's a young woman here. She says she heard you need help in the house." Chief Tunde frowned. "From where? Which agency sent her?" "She says no agency, sir. She just came on her own." A few minutes later, a young woman stepped into the study. She wore a simple Ankara gown and had a worn leather handbag slung over her shoulder. Her shoes were dusty from walking in the rain. "Good afternoon, sir. My name is Amara. I can cook, clean, and take care of children. I'm looking for work." Chief Tunde raised an eyebrow. "Do you have references? Experience?" "No official references, sir. But I've raised my younger siblings since I was 15, after my parents passed away. I know how to be patient with children." There was something in her voice, steady, unafraid, but humble. Against his better judgment, he decided to give her a 1-week trial. On her first morning, Amara carried a tray of pancakes and juice to the dining table. The children were already there, whispering and giggling. Kemi said loudly, "We don't eat food from strangers." Tola added, "Unless you can make it like mommy." Then, splash. A bucket of cold water fell from above, soaking Amara's dress. The staff gasped, waiting for her to shout or cry. Instead, Amara laughed softly. "Oh, so you like water games? Good. After breakfast, we'll have a proper water fight in the garden. But first, eat, before it gets cold." The children stared. No maid had ever reacted like that. They didn't eat, but they didn't throw the food away either. Over the next days, the children tried more tricks. They hid her broom. She searched the whole house, then acted as if she couldn't sweep without it. They laughed so hard they returned it themselves. They put too much salt in the stew. She pretended to faint dramatically, then sat up smiling. "Now I know you want me to drink more water and live longer." Dora threw her laundry into the pool. Amara calmly washed and dried it without complaint. Instead of punishing them, she turned every prank into a game, and in doing so, she confused them. They didn't know how to fight someone who refused to get angry. One night, Amara sat in the living room with the children and began telling a story. Once, there was a king who had a beautiful queen. They had 3 children. But one day, the queen went to the market and never came back. The children were so sad, they built tall, thorny walls around their hearts. No one could come close. But the king didn't know that inside those walls, the children were still hurting, still missing their mother. The children sat silently. Even Kemi stopped fiddling with her phone. They all knew the story was about them. Amara ended it gently. Sometimes, children build walls to protect their hearts. But sometimes, the walls also keep love out. Weeks later, Dora fell sick with a high fever. Chief Tunde was away on a business trip in Abuja, and the mansion's doctor was delayed by traffic. Amara stayed by Dora's bedside all night, sponging her forehead, humming lullabies, whispering, "You'll be fine, my princess. I'm right here." When Chief Tunde finally arrived at 1 a.m., exhausted, he found Dora sleeping peacefully in Amara's arms. For the first time in years, his heart softened toward another person in his home. After that night, everything began to shift. Kemi started helping Amara cook. Tola began following her to the market, carrying bags. Dora would not sleep unless Amara tucked her in. The staff noticed laughter in the halls again. Chief Tunde began spending more evenings at home, eating at the same table as his children. One Sunday dinner, Kemi looked at her father and asked, "Daddy, can Amara stay forever?" Chief Tunde looked at his 3 smiling children, then at the young woman who had done the impossible. His voice was firm but full of emotion. "Amara, you're not just staying. You're part of this family now." Amara's eyes filled with tears. For the first time since she stepped into that mansion, she felt truly at home. 2 months after Amara became part of the Adewale household, the once chaotic mansion had turned warm and orderly. The children now adored her, the house staff respected her, or so it seemed. But in the quiet corners of the mansion, envy was brewing. The head cook, Madam Bose, who had served in the household for years, began to whisper to the laundry woman, "This Amara thinks she is better than us because Oga likes her. She is just pretending to be humble." At first, the gossip was harmless. But as Chief Tunde began asking for Amara's opinion on family matters, and even business events that involved the children, some staff saw her as a threat. One Saturday morning, the children were excited because Amara promised to bake cupcakes with them. They rushed to the kitchen, only to find Amara staring at the bowl of batter in shock. Someone had mixed salt instead of sugar into the flour. Kemi sniffed the bowl and said, "It smells funny." Before Amara could speak, Madam Bose entered dramatically. "Oh. I warn you not to let these children cook with you. They've spoiled everything." The children's faces fell. But Kemi's sharp eyes caught the way Madam Bose smirked before turning away. She suspected something was wrong. Later that week, Chief Tunde was in his office when Madam Bose knocked. "Sir, I just want to tell you that Amara is not as innocent as she looks. She is getting too close to the children, so you will trust her. One day, she might control you." Chief Tunde frowned. "Bose, Amara has been nothing but good to this family. Sir, sometimes evil wears the face of an angel." The words stuck in his mind, though he tried to ignore them. One evening, as Amara was tidying the children's room, a brown envelope slipped from her bag. Kemi picked it up before Amara could stop her. Inside was a faded photograph, a younger Amara with a small boy, both barefoot and smiling. There was also a hospital bill stamped unpaid. Kemi asked softly, "Who is he?" Amara hesitated, then sat down. "His name is Chike. My little brother. He was sick for many years. I worked as a cleaner and sold vegetables to pay for his medicine. But last year, he died." The children were quiet. Tola reached out and held her hand. It was the first time Amara had shared her pain with anyone in the mansion. Madam Bose, seeing that her gossip was not working, decided to act. During a Sunday lunch, she sprinkled extra pepper into Amara's jollof rice before serving it to the children. Within minutes, Dora began coughing and crying. Kemi rushed to call Amara, who was in the laundry room. Amara quickly gave Dora milk to soothe her throat. Chief Tunde entered the dining room to see chaos, Dora crying, the food untouched, Madam Bose pretending to be concerned. What happened? He demanded. Before anyone could answer, Kemi stood up. It's not Amara. I saw Madam Bose pour something into the rice. The room went silent. Chief Tunde's voice was low but dangerous. Bose, is this true? The woman stammered, denying it, but the cook's assistant stepped forward nervously. Sir. I saw her do it. She said it was just extra spice, but I didn't believe her. Chief Tunde's anger was ice cold. Pack your things. You are leaving this house today. Madam Bose left, cursing under her breath. But before she stepped out, she turned to Amara and hissed. You may have one now, but people like you never stay on top. That night, after the children were asleep, Chief Tunde called Amara to his study. I want to thank you. You've not only cared for my children, you've protected them. I see now that I was blind to how much you've given. Amara shook her head. Sir, I'm just doing what your wife would have wanted. The words hit him deeply. For the first time since Fomi's death, he felt a strange sense of peace. It scared him, and yet, it warmed him. Weeks passed, and the house grew even livelier. The children's grades improved, they laughed freely, and they spoke of their mother without tears. One Friday evening, as the sun set over the Lagos lagoon, Chief Tunde stood by the balcony watching Amara play catch with the children in the garden. For a brief moment, he thought he saw Fomi's smile in Amara's laughter. And in that moment, he realized something that both comforted and frightened him. He was beginning to care for her in a way he hadn't cared for anyone in years. It was a warm Saturday morning, and the Adewale mansion was quiet except for the sound of the gardener trimming the hedges. Amara was in the kitchen making akara for breakfast when the security guard rushed in. Madam Amara, there's one young man outside asking for you. He says his name is Chike. Amara froze. Chike. That's impossible, my brother is dead. Confused and trembling, she went to the gate. Standing there was a tall, lean young man in a faded t-shirt, his eyes filled with both hope and bitterness. So, you're living the good life now, he said flatly. Amara's heart pounded. I buried you, she whispered. The man gave a dry laugh. You thought I died, but they sent me away to live with an uncle in Benin. I searched for you for years, Amara. They sat in the servants' quarters, away from curious eyes. Chike explained how their uncle had taken him in, but treated him like a slave. He had run away multiple times, living on the streets before finding occasional work at construction sites. I heard from a woman in the market that a rich man's maid named Amara was buying vegetables here in Ikoyi. I knew it had to be you, Chike said. Amara's eyes filled with tears. I thought you were gone, Chike. I worked like a mule to save you. If I had known. But his next words cut her. Then why are you here, smiling with rich people's children, while I suffered? Amara was silent. She had no answer that wouldn't sound like betrayal. What Amara didn't know was that one of the junior staff overheard the conversation and ran to tell Chief Tunde. Oga, that made you trust so much has a brother who came to beg her. Maybe she brought him to enjoy your money too. Chief Tunde listened quietly but didn't speak. Still, the seed of doubt was planted. 2 nights later, Chike came back secretly. Amara, I need help. I'm in trouble. I owe some dangerous people 500,000 Nigerian nairas. If I don't pay in a week, they'll come after me. Amara was shocked. Where will I get that kind of money? Chike's eyes hardened. You work in a billionaire's house. Don't tell me you can't find a way. Or maybe, you've forgotten where you came from. Amara felt torn apart. She couldn't steal, but she also couldn't let her brother be harmed. That week, Amara was unusually quiet. Chief Tunde noticed. One evening, he found her on the balcony, staring into the distance. Amara, what's wrong? He asked gently. She hesitated, then said, It's nothing, sir. But the same evening, he caught sight of her handing Chike an envelope by the back gate. From his view, it looked like a secretive exchange. The doubt planted by the gossip earlier now bloomed into suspicion. The next morning, Chief Tunde called her into his study. His voice was cool. "Amara, I thought you were different. But now I see, maybe you came here for money after all." Amara's face went pale. "Sir, it's not what you think. Don't lie to me. I saw you last night. If you want to help your family, you should have come to me, not sneak behind my back." Tears welled up in her eyes. "You think I'm a thief? After everything?" "Sir, I would never dishonor this house." But the hurt in his voice was deep. "I don't know what to believe anymore." That night, the children overheard part of the argument. Kemi pulled Tola and Dora aside. "We're not letting anyone chase Amara away. We'll find out the truth." The next day, they secretly followed Amara when she went to meet Chike. They overheard him pressuring her again for money. Kemi stepped forward, furious. "Stop using her. She's done more for this family than anyone." Chike looked shocked but left without another word. The children rushed back to the mansion and told Chief Tunde everything they'd seen. Guilt washed over him. That evening, he went to Amara's room. "I owe you an apology," he said quietly. "I judged you too quickly." Amara gave a sad smile. "Sir, trust is fragile. Once it's cracked, it's hard to fix." "Then let me spend the rest of my life fixing it," he replied without thinking. They locked eyes, and for the first time, both felt the unspoken bond they had been dancing around. Weeks later, Chike left Lagos to start over with help from a charity Chief Tunde arranged on the condition that he never pressure Amara again. Life in the mansion returned to peace. One evening, Chief Tunde found himself standing beside Amara on the balcony, watching the sunset. "Amara, I don't just want you as part of this family for the children. I want you here, for me too." She looked at him, speechless, heart pounding. It had been 3 months since Chike left Lagos. The Adewale mansion had settled into a peaceful rhythm, dinners together, laughter echoing in the halls, and an unspoken closeness between Chief Tunde and Amara. One Friday night, after the children had gone to bed, Chief Tunde invited Amara to the garden. Lanterns glowed softly, and a gentle breeze swayed the flowers. "Amara," he began, his voice low, "you've been the light that brought my children and me back to life. I don't want you to just walk here anymore. I want you to be my wife." Amara's eyes widened. She felt her knees weaken. "Sir. He smiled. "Call me Tunde." She hesitated. "This is too sudden. I've been a maid in your house. What will people say? They'll say I married the woman who saved my family. And I don't care what else they think." The next week, a letter arrived for Amara. It was unsigned, but the message was clear. "Leave the mansion before you destroy what's left of this family. You don't belong here." At first, she dismissed it as gossip-driven malice. But when a second letter came, this time with a photo of her and Chief Tunde in the garden, she knew someone was watching them. One evening, as Amara was leaving the market, a black car pulled up. The window rolled down, and there sat Madame Bose, the ex-cook, smiling coldly. "I told you I'd be back," she said. "You think you've won? You're just a maid who got lucky. But I know things that can ruin you and him." Amara's voice shook. "I've done nothing wrong." "Oh, but your brother, he hasn't stayed out of trouble. Imagine if Tunde knew the full story of his debts and dealings. How long would you last then?" 3 days later, while the children were at an after-school program, Dora didn't return with the others. Panic erupted in the mansion. Within an hour, a call came. "We have the girl. If you want her back, Amara must leave the Adewale house forever, or she'll never see her family again." Amara recognized the voice Madame Bose. Amara didn't hesitate. Without telling Chief Tunde, she went to the address given, an abandoned warehouse near the port. Dora sat on a chair, tied but unharmed. "Let her go," Amara demanded. Madame Bose smirked. On one condition, walk away from the Aduwales and never come back. But before Amara could answer, a deep voice echoed, or you'll answer to me. Chief Tunde stepped out from the shadows, flanked by 2 police officers. The children's driver had followed Amara from the mansion and called him. Within minutes, Madam Bose was in handcuffs. Back at the mansion, Tunde confronted Amara. Why didn't you tell me? Why go alone? Her voice was soft. Because this family has already lost one mother. I couldn't risk the children losing their father too if something went wrong. He looked at her for a long moment, then took her hand. And you still think you're not part of this family? 6 months later, the garden of the Aduwale mansion was filled with music and laughter. Kemi, Tola, and Dora wore matching dresses, walking proudly ahead of Amara, now dressed in a simple but elegant white gown. As she reached the altar, Tunde took her hand. You walked into my house as a maid. You're walking out today as my wife, my partner, and the children's second mother. Tears filled her eyes as she whispered, and I will protect this family with my life. Years later, people still spoke of how the billionaire married the maid who healed his heart. But those who knew the truth understood, she had not just healed him. She had saved them all. The end.